Welcome to another session of Stelmo's Rants and Raves. I'm Stelmo. Let's just jump into this. So, today I was reading New York Post online, and they're running an editorial by their Post editorial board, and the headline says "Teen Takeovers will bring bloody chaos nationwide this summer because Blue America is impending." You know, number one, let me tell the Post editorial board that you're right, they're not bending, and they're not going to bend. They are ideologues. The Democratic Party has been taken over by the Democratic Socialist Party of America. It's a whole different ballgame there. They're never, and they're going to, their ideology is one that forces compliance. And, I agree with I certainly agree with the content of this editorial, which is you have these gangs. And actually, they only become a gang at the location where they're going to. This stuff is all set up on social media. The young people are much more savvy than us older folks. And, in some of the areas where they do their, let's say, congregation, in some cases, the police just don't have the assets to handle this. And certainly this would be an area where it would be nice to see a little better cooperation between these states, well, the local governments, the states, and the federal government, so that they could call on other resources. Because if this isn't stopped, this trouble is going to get far worse, and it could become an existential threat to this country. Because what the article doesn't say, because the purpose of the article is to concentrate on these teen gangs. But let us not also forget the adult gangs. Let's remember what happened in California. Let's remember what happened in Minnesota. And now we have massive civil disobedience in New Jersey. And what is Donald Trump doing? I don't know. It's progressively getting worse. And the problem is you either nip these things in the bud, or they're progressively going to get worse. And why is that happening more so now than ever before? It's because of our economy. Look, I support the Trump administration, but they got to get realistic. The inflation of the Biden administration, combined with the inflation that's continued of the Trump administration, has put far too many Americans' pocketbooks empty. They're running on fumes. And what are they looking at? They're looking at more increased prices coming down the pike. And our president, he doesn't seem to think that finishing the war in Iraq is important. He's willing to wait till whatever period it takes, and the Lord knows, may take his whole term. I think he's going to start changing his position the more that this inflation starts to kick in. Inflation's going to, I see the potential for double-digit inflation here. I look at somebody like the CEO of Exxon, and who's come out and said, look, the only reason that we're keeping fuel prices down, and keep in mind, they're far elevated from what they were before the Iranian incursion. And what he's saying is, here in a couple of weeks, they're going to skyrocket because they're running out of their reserves. They're running on reserves. You know, when Donald Trump says we have enough energy for ourselves, perhaps that's factually correct. But in reality, the owners of this oil are going to sell it to the highest bidder. I mean, that's capitalism. That's what our country was built on. I see nothing necessarily wrong with that, other than we have to change the conditions which raised the cost to where it is today. You know, Americans' pocketbooks are so stretched. You know, we're now hearing where people with six-figure incomes are having to borrow money to stay afloat. Now, look, I know when you make more money, you incur more expenses and things. You know, you probably pay for a lot more channels that you like, and there's all sorts of fees for everything, for the cloud here, the cloud there. You know, you get hit everywhere, and everything is going up. Nothing's really coming down. The government is gaslighting us on the amount of inflation. Just like the BLS numbers are always wrong and have to be revised downward, the inflation numbers are wrong, and they don't revise them. And there's a reason why. Because they know that they would have a budgetary problem if they gave the recipients of federal benefits a COLA raise of the actual inflation. And so every year, those on Social Security are falling further and further behind. And might I point out that, as I know I'm painting here with a big paintbrush, but generally speaking, older people are more apt to vote than younger people. And I think that may start to change, because younger people, they're infuriated. And I understand their anger. They're really upset with what my generation and previous generations have left them. This country is so heavily in debt. There's no way that money's ever going to be paid back. And you know, one valuable asset we allegedly have that could potentially help us in a crisis is the gold. But, you know, Donald Trump promised us he was going to show everyone the gold in Fort Knox. And I'm sure everybody's seen those videos already. And I think they were sent out just about the same time as those complete Epstein files were sent out. And, you know, it's becoming more and more evident to me that our government is deserting the people. And if I'm correct, what would be the reason for that? And I think a lot of these people are, well, I was just reading an article, I don't know, hour ago about Peter Thiel. He has, was it Argentina? Somewhere in South America. Now he bought a multi-million-dollar home and is moving his family down there. He's already got his children enrolled in school. And he's leaving because of the political climate in this country. He realizes that this may not be the safest place for him and his family. Now, it's fortunate that he has the money that he can do that. But how many other people in this country might want to do that and can't do it? You have to ask yourself when you look at some of the scenes of some of the stuff going on in California. You know, if you're, let's say, young parents, you have several young children attending school. You know, let's use San Francisco as an example. You know, they put out maps showing you where there's high concentration of human excrement on the sidewalk and drug paraphernalia, oftentimes sharp needles, which may contain a host of dangerous pathogens. You know, some of these addicts have different kind of diseases. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off on that. But I can't imagine if these people have the financial wherewithal, why would they stay behind in these areas? See, I don't think they would. I just don't think. I don't think they see where they can leave their job. Perhaps they own a home and they don't think that they would be able to sell it for whatever reason. But I believe there's a lot more people would be leave in these places if they could. And I live in Florida, and this is a very red state, and we're constantly getting people in from Blue Dominions. And the only thing that we ask these people is, please don't try your failed policies here. Don't bring that nonsense here. And fortunately for us so far, the vast majority of people moving into this state are registering as Republicans. And but with that being said, I don't see what the Republican Party is doing for the people. And quite frankly, I'm not sure what can be done. See, the problem is with all the deficit spending we've had collectively over the last few decades, we're so heavily in debt, it interferes with whatever we're going to do. And it's already getting harder and harder for us to sell our debt. And I believe they're not selling a good portion of our debt, which means that it's just more printed money, which is going to bring about more, which is more inflation, and we'll see the result of that inflation when prices are going to continue to go up because these fuel costs must be passed on. And I again want to note, diesel is much more expensive than gas, and diesel is what runs this country, and so we got a lot of problems. These teen takeovers are a serious problem, needs to be addressed. And I just don't see it. And I think as we go into this summer, look at it this way. The Democrats have to be terrified. They're losing issues all over the place when it comes to their representatives. They started this gerrymandering battle, and the Republicans are finishing it. And they don't like how it looks. But let me tell you what, if you think they're just going to sit back and say, well, we got to, change our policies and get the people back here, that's not what they intend to do. I don't know what they intend to do. But I know historically the Democratic Party has been the party that is proactive, whereas the Republican Party is always reactive. And what we're finding out is we elect these people, and they go into these offices where they have oversight over these departments, and they don't even know that billions of dollars are being stolen. How is that possible? It makes no sense. It really doesn't, but it is what it is. And I just think, we're heading for, I think, a terrible summer. I think the only perhaps redeeming factor is they're saying June is going to be one of the coldest Junes on record. Perhaps that'll keep more people inside. I don't know. But then again, people are going to be paying more for heating, and heating is always more expensive than air conditioning. So you can figure that out. Anyway, just wanted to zero in on these couple ideas here. And with that, I want to wish everybody a safe day. It's a crazy world we live in. It gets crazier by the day. Soon it'll probably be getting crazier by the hour. But it is what it is. We got to deal with it. Thank you. Bye-bye.